Dan Martell, it is so good to see you, brother.
Hal, same, man. Honored to be here. Appreciate you. And I'm going to call the shot, man. I want this to be one of the best podcasts and movies you've ever done. It's a high bar. Got incredible guests, but I'm going to give you 110%.
I'm in. I'm totally in. It's interesting. We have a very unique relationship in that we've probably spent less than an hour together in the last 10 years. But like we have this natural love and affinity for each other. Would you say that? Am I making that up, or is that true?
No, 100%. Can you imagine? Like, really, Alan?
I didn't see that our relationship that way at all. But yeah,
it's no, and it's cool. I mean, this is the power of social media. As much as people want to, sometimes poo-poo it, I think it's a beautiful thing if done right. Right. Yeah. And I think I've just always shared how grateful I am and the work you've done and how it's impacted my life and, just the way you do life in general. So it's cool that you feel that way.
Yeah, man. Well, you and Renee are just two beautiful people. And I think that just radiates. And so, like you said, even social media, right? You see it, you feel the authenticity. And you can tell, I feel like if somebody, like if they're playing a game of like, look how much better I am than you and look how cool my life is, even though it's not, or, like you can kind of feel, I feel like that authenticity across social media,
Yeah.
So first and foremost, I guess we already had a first and a foremost, but the next thing I want to say is congratulations on your new book, Buy Back Your Time, hitting number 2 on Wall Street Journal bestseller list.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. As you know, number 1, it's got a behemoth in that spot with Atomic Habits. It's a tough one to unseat. So
I think that he personally, I think he has like a wealthy uncle and he's just buying like 10,000 copies of his book. I'm like, how could I don't know what he's doing.
Naturally selling 25, 30,000 a week is beautiful. And I know James, amazing. Actually, as soon as I got number 2, I chirped at him.
Totally. I saw you guys go back and forth. Yeah.
I was like, hey, dude, you better start promoting your book more. I'm coming for you as a joke. But it's a freaking honor, man. It's crazy. I like, there was no expectation. There was zero. I was just, I decided to write a book to serve some people that I really cared about. And somehow it's resonating in the world. And it's just, man, as you know, it's just, you write something, you work on something for years and you hope people like it. And number 2 Wall Street Journal is kind of, it doesn't make sense. I grew up in a small town in Eastern Canada, and my brother called me in the morning. He goes, dude, I didn't even think I would ever know somebody that wrote a book, let alone a bestseller. And I'm like, I know. Isn't this crazy? He's like, I don't even get it.
It's weird how it's surreal because you're like, especially this is your first book, right? Like your first book. Yep. Your first book goes big. Well, and I'll tell you, here's the thing. Like I'm holding your book in my hands right now for anybody watching this on YouTube, listening to the podcast. The book is Buy Back Your Time, Get Unstuck, Reclaim Your Freedom, and Build Your Empire. And this morning I was, I'm reading it. I'm literally less than halfway through it. It is exactly what I need right now. Exactly what I need. I just launched a team. I've always been a real solopreneur. It's been like me and my assistant. And then everyone that's worked with me or for me has been like an independent contractor that I'd bring on to do it. Hey, I'll hire you for a month to do this or 3 months to do this. Right. And going into this year, I finally was like, I need to take the Miracle Morning to the next level. I need help. You know this. I need help. I can't do it by myself anymore. Right. And so I've got all these people that I've worked with for years. I'm like, hey, I want to bring you on full time. Like we need to build a team. I'm gonna get a loan, invest some money. Like I'm all in. And so this book is the perfect time. And here's what I want to do today. This morning, it hit me as I'm reading. I'm like, wait a minute. How rare is it that you're reading a book that's changing your life and that you get to talk to the author of the book while you're reading their book, right? Like that doesn't happen. You don't go to the store and buy a book and you're like, oh my God, this famous author, I could just talk to him. So this morning, I'm like, I think I'm going to selfishly use this time to just ask Dan, basically get coaching from you. Like, I don't know what it would cost to bring you in for a day of coaching or consulting. It'd be a small fortune. I know that.
Yep.
Yeah.
It
So
is.
I'm just going to selfishly ask you what I want to know. And I think that'll serve the audience in the end. So,
and it's fun for me, how, because like, look, the book's there and I'm not trying to sell books, but if it resonates, go get it. But I'm more interested in like the implementation side. So,
yeah.
We can get into the nuance and really kind of look at the full picture and serve you. And I'm sure everybody else listening, especially your audience, would love to hear that perspective as well.
Let's do this first. So before we get into my questions, you're very open about the challenges that you faced in your upbringing. In fact, you open the book with that. It really grabs attention, right? Police chase, pulling a gun out. I mean, it was wild. Can you dive into how you ended up in jail and kind of that story and, going from there to being as successful as you've been?
Yeah, I'll share the short version because obviously I want to spend more time coaching and serving you. But I grew up in like an environment that was very much probably the best way to think about it. If you've ever watched Sons of Anarchy, motorcycle gang. Like I just grew up. I got diagnosed with ADHD when I was 11. I had a serious anger issue. My mom was an alcoholic. My dad was in sales, traveling a lot, and just had a lot of time on my hands. And we grew up kind of outside of the main city. And, I got introduced to drugs when I was 13 and just kind of spiraled out of control. And just, quickly, it's kind of funny because I've always been entrepreneurial. I just didn't do anything legal for a really long time. And, just, learning things and seeing things that, teenagers really shouldn't be exposed to just through the circle of people I was spending time with, and ended up in trouble with the law. Ended up in jail the first time I was 15, got out. I was going to change my life. I lasted less than 24 hours. And about a year later, I got in some big trouble and I was on the run from the police, and I had stolen a car and I had a handgun sitting next to me in a backpack because I told myself if the police stopped me, I was going to just pull the gun and let them do their job. And I took a routine exit off the highway to get some gas, and there was a roadblock, and I decided to gun it. Just stepped on the gas and took off and trying to get away, and ended up in this neighborhood. I was quite a bit ahead. I mean, I'm drunk and high at this point, so from what I can remember, right? But I saw an open garage door, and I was thinking, hide out in that garage. Maybe I've watched too many car chase movies, but as I pulled in, I ended up smashing in the side of the house. I was going way too fast, and airbag goes off, and just chaos. Smashed my head against the steering wheel because I wasn't wearing a seatbelt. And when I came through, I went for the gun, and I started pulling on it, and I could hear the police kind of pull up. And as I was pulling on it, got stuck between the side of the seat and the bag it was in. I just kept yanking. And before I knew it, the door opened up and the police just grabbed me. And I woke up sober the next morning in a jail cell, wondering what the heck my life was going to look like. And I ended up doing 6 months in adult prison due to the severity of my crimes. I had a guard in prison that I talk about in the book that spoke into me beliefs that I didn't have in myself. And I eventually got released to a rehab center called Portage, where I did about 11 months of therapy, like full on understanding my feelings, my story, the meaning I had associated with a bunch of trauma, rebuilding relationship with my parents, the trust with my brothers and sisters. I'm the second oldest of 4. And it was at the end of this 11-month intense program that I was helping Rick, the maintenance guy, clean out one of the cabins because it was built in an old church camp. And in one of the rooms was this old computer and a yellow book on Java programming sitting next to it. So I never touched a computer my whole life. And I just opened this book expecting kind of like weird codes and hexadecimal numbers and zeros and ones. And it actually read like English. And I just followed chapter 1. And within 20 minutes, I got the computer to say, "Hello world." And I thought, maybe I'm a genius. Like I literally thought that, Hal. Like that's how dumb I was. I was like, oh, I've never touched a computer and I made this thing print out "Hello world." Like maybe there's something here. And right or wrong, it didn't matter. It literally became my obsession. I mean, it really filled the hole I think that addiction had left.
And this was at what age?
I was 17 and this was 1997. So I get out, and very quickly, I discovered this small thing called the internet, and couldn't pick better timing. And since then, there's been a ton of ups and downs, but I've been blessed to have built 5 software companies. I've exited 3. I became a multimillionaire at 28. I've continued that trajectory, investing in 50 plus software companies. I now run the largest CEO coaching program for software CEOs in the world. We have over 1,000 active clients. I also have High Speed Ventures, which is my investment vehicle. And, I talk about the things I've learned on that journey, as specifically around how to build a business that you don't grow to hate. Because I've been there, I've done that. I've caused a lot of what I call emotional shrapnel in my life. And today I'm just blessed to live a completely different life that for those that follow me on social media, ask me all the time how I do it. And now I have an answer.
Yeah. Yeah, man. It shows in the book in terms of what it's kind of like Miracle Morning in terms of like, I applied this, it changed my life. Let me tell you how it works. Right. And the same thing, you applied it, you taught it to countless entrepreneurs. It changed their world. I really related to Stuart's story in the book in 2020. I actually went through something real similar to Stuart, where I had launched a team. I didn't know what I was doing. I was overextended. I was on 3 years of chemo, and I hit my the pain line, as you call it, right?
Yeah.
I was extraordinarily anxious and ended up being diagnosed with PTSD, and had to do kind of similar to what you talked about. Like I didn't have your coaching at the time. I should have called you if I would have even thought about it. I wasn't thinking straight at the time, but I ended up just having to I did one of the, I forgot what you called them, but I basically had to let everybody go. I just fired everybody. I'm like, I'm a mess. I can't function. Right. And I wished I had, as I'm reading this, I'm like, God, I wish I had your advice. Cause like what you told Stuart, what he implemented, I could have implemented, which just goes to show that if you implement what is in the book, right, it's transformative. I want to read this from the book, and I feel like, and then I want to kind of unpack it, because this to me is one way of talking about what the promise of the book. All right. So you said the little known secret to reaching the next stage of your business is spending your time on only the tasks that A, you excel at, B, you truly enjoy, and C, add the highest value, usually in the form of revenue to your business. Likely 2 to 3 tasks fit that description. Every other task you're handling is slowing your growth and sucking the life from you, and you should clear it from your calendar. And then here it is. Yes, someone else should be handling about 95% of your current work so you can get back to what matters. In your words, how would you explain what this book and the concepts that you teach are designed to do for an entrepreneur?
It's very simple. I actually believe and have proven through thousands of clients I've coached that you can build an empire. Now, my words, an empire is a life of unlimited creation you never have to retire from. Okay? So it's not how big it is, how many employees you have. It's literally to the level of creation you want to create. There's no constraint. So I believe that you can do that and also live an incredibly high quality of life if you're willing to totally change your perspective on how you think of business and your relationship with money and your self-worth and your value. But it's mathematically proven. Like, you can't build $1 million company off $10 tasks, right? And what happens is a lot of entrepreneurs start down this journey of being a business owner or solopreneur, and they just think, well, I'm supposed to do everything. I'm supposed to do the things that nobody else wants to do. I'm not fancy. I'm not worthy. I don't want people to judge me if I have somebody support me, and all these. There's just like all these, and that's why I wrote the chapter on the time assassins, because there's a lot of just bad behavior that is self-inflicted. And I tried to do the best job I could in the whole book, just try to beat down these mindset beliefs that just aren't serving anybody that's trying to do it. So it's kind of funny it's not funny. It's unfortunate that a lot of founders hit the pain line and it is 100% avoidable, right? I mean, they have a business, they've got revenue. Many of them have contractors, teams, etc. They're just not sequencing the process properly. And that's what I try to do my best to simplify and unlock in the book so that people can literally build that business that they don't grow to hate.
Well, and I think there's two parts to it. I think that, right, it's first, it's the mindset, it's the paradigm. And that's just in the opening pages, the first couple chapters, that was shifting my paradigm. I'm like, oh yes, this is how I need to think about my business. Right. But if you're not aware of that, like I mentioned back in 2020, when I went through something similar to Stuart, I wasn't aware of that. Stuart had you to shift the way he thought about it, which shifted the approach he took. And then the methods that you teach in the book, right? He was able to apply those. Like some of the excuses, I'm reading this and I'm going, excuses all entrepreneurs tell themselves, I don't have time. Don't have time to train somebody or manage somebody. Like, thank God I got over that one when I hired an assistant 8 years ago. Because even that, I was like, I don't know how to teach her what to do, and I don't know how to train her, and I don't even know what to teach her, and I don't even, right now I don't have the time for that. I can barely keep my head above water. Thank God took one step back to take that quantum leap forward. Another excuse, I can't afford the help. Right, that's always been an issue for me, right? And that's probably what's held me back. And this year, I'm finally like, I'm going to get a loan, and I'm going to invest in what I believe is possible for my business, right? Period.
Yeah.
Either you believe in what's possible, right? Or you're stuck in the past going, well, we've never done it before, so I don't really know, right? Part of being an entrepreneur is taking that risk. Another excuse, no one's as good at the work as I am. God, that's been a hard one to let go of.
Yeah. Well, in the book, I talk about it. The first belief you have to get to is 80% done by somebody else is 100% freaking awesome.
Like, say it again.
80% done by somebody else is 100% freaking awesome.
I like it.
Like every hour that somebody supports me to do something that I would otherwise have to do, even if it's 80% of what I could have done, I am so grateful for that time back, because it means I get to go work on something that lights me up, that is creative, or spend time. I just got back from 3 days of heli skiing. Like, I'm really grateful for the people in my life that support me so that I can go spend time with other folks that I love. I mean, I've been doing this trip for 9 years. And
was Brad Weimert with you on that trip? Same one?
Yeah. Brad's been on it probably 5 years. Yeah, there's Chandler Bolt's on it.
Oh, Chandler's on it? How fun, man.
Yeah. It's a pretty nutty trip. And so like, again, it's I'm not saying buy back your time to go work 60, 70, 100 hours a week. I'm saying buy back your time to be smarter about how you reinvest and allocate that time so that it actually creates a life that's incredible.
Yeah. When what you just talked about, 80% done by somebody else, 100% awesome. Here's what I've found. It goes back to the old adage of fear, right? That the way to overcome fear is do the thing you're afraid of. And then once you do it and you realize, oh, it's not as bad as I feared, right? Or the unknown that I thought could be worse than, I don't even know what it would be. Because what happens is whoever does the thing in place of you, right? As long as you give it to a person that's capable, they do it pretty dang well and possibly better than you. Maybe different, right?
I use that quote just to like, kind of like, it's almost like the gateway drug of it.
Yeah.
But the truth is like, Sandy on my team who does my bookkeeping, she does it 300 times better than me.
Yep.
She loves to do it. And it's an incredible relationship because she would never do what I do, right? Yeah. She doesn't even have a Facebook account, let alone would want to talk to a group of people on a Zoom session, right? So I think that's what's beautiful is that once you and look, just start small. Like a lot of clients I coach, even when we talk about this concept, the buyback principle into their personal life, they're like, having somebody clean their home. Some people, that's a thing. They're like, how do you have somebody in your space and this and that? I was like, look, just try it once. Like literally just, it's like, well, I couldn't have somebody manage my emails as an assistant. It's like, just ask somebody to do something for you, run an errand. Like it just play with it a little bit. And I think to your point, Hal, the fear that they thought they would have is like, oh, that was a bit outsized compared to what actually happened.
Yeah. Yeah. The pro by far outweighs your perceived con, right? When you're like, oh my God, I didn't it got done and I didn't have to do it. Like, right. Mind blown. I mean, you're like, well, what else could I do? And actually you tell me, is the first step for somebody, the buyback loop? Is that it? The audit, starting there?
Yeah. So the buyback principle states we don't hire people to grow our business. We hire people to buy back our time. And that's the big idea. When people are like, why is this book different than every other time management, productivity, blah, blah, blah book out there? It's that, right? And then how do we do that is the buyback loop.
Say it again for people just so they really get it cemented.
We don't hire people to grow our business. We hire people to buy back our time.
Okay, now elaborate on that.
Yeah, the number one pain, or the number one reason companies fail is not market, is not other things. It's literally the CEO deciding, I don't want to do this anymore. This sucks. And it's not what I signed up for. So I'm going to go do something different. But guess what? They bring them with them.
Yeah.
They're the problem. Like, it doesn't matter what business you're in, you are still you, and you'll do the same thing in this other business. So the buyback loop is a 3-step process. And, you know, I do it probably every 4 months. When I hit the pain line, when I feel like my calendar is starting to get full of things that don't light me up, that is taking more than the hours I wanted to allocate for the different projects, that's where I go to the buyback loop, right? And it's audit, transfer, and fill. I want that to be a mantra for people, just audit, transfer, fill. The audit is very important. It's a time and energy audit. It's not just time and productivity. It's literally energy, right? So what I do with my clients is I get them to do a 2-week log every 15 minutes, writing down what they worked on. And then we come back and we highlight in green things that lit you up, things that you enjoyed doing, and in red, things that took your energy or you didn't enjoy doing. And then we put a $1 sign, $1 to $4 signs next to each task. And we say, you know, if it was a low cost, and it's relative to the individual's buyback rate. So it's not it's kind of like the cost of a restaurant. It's variable. So there's no number. People are like, well, is this a $10 task, 100? It's like, it doesn't matter. Wherever you're at, is this a low cost for you to pay somebody else to do it? Or is it a high cost, like a $4 sign, which would be like hiring a C-level director to take over like half your business, like a COO. And then what happens is if you do that audit, you can literally grab all of the $1 sign tasks in red, put them in a bucket, and do not spend any money on labor other than that. No contractors, no employees, until you go, all right, I've got a bucket of stuff that needs to be done by somebody else. What would that hire look like? Let me get that person in my world. Then it's transfer. How do I take that stuff and give it to them in a very clear and clean way so that you feel still in control and they feel empowered, which I teach in the book. And then fill, which is the big one, is once you've got this newfound time, what do you do with it? Okay, because this is probably the area that stops people from progressing, is they buy back time and then they literally just do more like not interesting stuff, or they go on vacation, or they watch Netflix, or they scroll TikTok for 6 hours, or they go and throw hand grenades in their business. Like, that's another one, right? So for me, Phil is all about skills, beliefs, and character traits at a high level, right? And in the book, I break it down into tactical stuff, but we need to invest in skills so that we have knowledge to progress the business. So a lot of people just don't like, and I talk about the replacement ladder in the book, which is the sequence of hiring. If you don't know how to do that thing, you have to learn the thing. The beauty is we live in a world where you can buy a book, where somebody like yourself spent, 20 years learning this information, and you distill it into a book. And so it doesn't matter if it's marketing or sales or operations or systems or playbooks, like, go learn the skill, but also invest in the beliefs, because the beliefs is your blueprint on the world, your beliefs on how the world should look. And if you have, like we just talked about fear, I can't afford it, and how do I train them, and I'm scared. And so you have these beliefs that aren't serving you, and you will always, we got to grow through things, and we need to become the person who can deal with more complexity. Like, I hate to tell this to people, because I know that they wish that they could all live the 4-hour work week and everything would be fine. But the truth is the only thing that changes if you actually want to create something meaningful in the world is you become better.
Yeah.
The world doesn't get easier.
No.
Right? Like, Hal, it sounds like you're about to go into a kind of a growth chapter in your personal, like in the business and stuff. It's just going to require you to become more, which is awesome. That's what I love. Like, entrepreneurship became the personal development program I needed to stay sober and grow and build this life, right? It was a forcing function. Anytime I hit a ceiling, I was like, okay, what am I missing? Dan, like, you can do this. It's going to take some effort. But so that's why, to me, it's you buy back your time fill it with things that develop you. And then the character traits, the way I think about it, it's like, it's the lot, like, so habits, right? Like, big fan of your book, Savers, like the whole methodology. I did it for like a long time. And I keep tweaking it and playing with it for me and my lifestyle. And, it's funny because the other day somebody asked me about my habits, and I had a hard time thinking about them because they've now just become who I am.
Yeah.
So habits become identity once they've been ingrained. So character traits for me are skills and beliefs that now become just who you are, right? And at first it feels like effort, but over time you're building this ladder of success, right? You got skills, beliefs, and then the rungs of the ladder are the character traits that eventually it's just, oh, that's who Hal is or Dan is, right? They're just somebody that leads this way or shows up this way or communicates this way, but that's not how I used to do it. Yeah. Like people literally, I just got back from my trip. My buddy Mike and Hollis were like, dude, you're different. And I was like, yeah. And that's the point. Like, and next year, guess what? I hope you say, whoa, not bad. Just they called it full spectrum, right? Listen, you're just, like, I know you still got this, but you also got this. And I'm like, I appreciate that. That's probably the ultimate compliment.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I relate to that in terms of like right now being out of my comfort zone. And if you're listening to this and you're, you feel like you're playing small or like you're not going to that next level because it's scary, right? For anybody, no matter what level you get to, the next level is always scary, right? And for me, what I try to do is I try to take a step back and look at the whole situation. And what, you mentioned like the growth component. I went, I'm nervous. I'm a little scared to adopt this CEO role, even though that's been like technically my title on my tax form or whatever, right? But like I've never actually embodied that. I'm nervous, but then what I realize is I'm 43 years old. I'm like, how it would be tragic. It would be a huge missed opportunity if I lived the rest of my life as a solopreneur. And maybe I grow this team and build a bit and it lasts for, I don't know. I don't know what the future holds, right? But I'm like, I actually would, and I started to get excited. The fear started to excite me. I'm like, dude, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to grow. I'm going to become a version of me that I don't even know because I've never had to think about decisions that involved people's livelihood and coordinating a team and, scaling revenue to support payroll. And like, these are all, and I'm reading new books. I'm having new conversations. Like it's exciting. It went from being scary. And then once I shifted that paradigm, that perspective to like, dude, wait, this is a huge growth opportunity for me. Who am I going to be on the other side of this? Wow, that's exciting. That's more exciting than it is scary. And I'm just sharing that, Dan, for anybody listening that's in the fear phase, right? That they're like, oh, I don't know. I don't know about that next level. And anything, it could be totally just a personal in terms of your health, right? Or it could be completely related to what we're talking about, what your book's about right now, where someone is an entrepreneur or they want to be an entrepreneur, which, by the way, I wanted to mention that. As I was reading this, I go, man, I wish I would have read this before I became an entrepreneur. So that I would like, and I probably would have read it and I would have underlined, a bunch of it like I am now. But I would have like not been ready fully, but it would have planted the seeds of like, oh, this is the way I want to build my business. And then I would have kept the book as a resource. And then, each year gone back and gone like, okay, how does it apply now? And a year later, how does it apply now? Like, that's how good this is. I'm like, this is so relevant. It's so helpful. So
I can't wait till you read chapter 13. The Achieve Bigger, Dream Bigger, because you'll the 10x vision map will crystallize that feeling and give you that structure. There's a very unique structure because again, the word empire scares people so much.
Yeah.
Right. But really replace it with massive impact. Replace it with massive influence, massive service, contribution, like whatever word is gonna
legacy, right?
Yeah, legacy. Like. This is some of the biggest compliments I've gotten are from folks that are incredibly successful that kind of set up base camp. They kind of just said, I'm good.
That's where I was. Yeah.
But they knew inside, they're like, how can I be good if I know that I've got more to give and I'm not showing up that way? It feels kind of off, right? And I'm getting these messages from people like, I was good because I was scared. because I assumed if I wanted to go to the next level, it was going to require sacrifice with my family, sacrificing my business, sacrifice. And it doesn't, it's not that it doesn't require you to, yes, face a fear and get outside your comfort zone, but it doesn't require a lot of other stuff. Like my buddy Mike messaged me on Facebook. He left me this voice message. And it was my favorite things. One of the top things so far from the book, because I really care a lot about him. And he just said, like, hey man, I was scared and you've shown me a different way. And now I'm excited about the people I know I'm going to be able to serve and not sacrifice the success habits, the fundamentals, the business fundamentals, or the commitments I've made to others. I'm like, let's go, bro. Like that's what I'm about. I'm just about expression. I want people to express their art, their creativity, especially like you said, like when you started, it's hard. Yeah. Here was the hardest thing for me to do in this book. Write a book that's relevant to an artist that has 0 employees that just wants to do more art.
Yeah.
And to a 100 million 9-figure CEO.
Yeah.
And it was like, I edited the book like crazy to make sure I could address both, because it's a principle that scales. And like you said, you just keep coming back. I do it every 4 months, man. I'm like, I'm trying to grow. Like,
yeah, that resonates with me as an author, because like I'm updating the Miracle Morning right now. We're doing a new updated edition and going through the whole thing. And even the original book, when I wrote it, right, it's like, I'm thinking, how do I write this for someone that's at rock bottom, broke, in debt, overweight, like I was when I came up with the Miracle Morning to turn my life around. But I've also heard tons of CEOs say that like this has changed them and now they're better. And, so how do I write it for the person at rock bottom and the, person that's succeeding at the highest level that wants that edge to go to the next level? So it's such an interesting dichotomy, right, between like applying to both. But what I find is at the center of both of those examples is a human being, right? And that's it. And you appear when you're speaking to a human being, and no matter how successful you are, you have the same fears or different, but you have doubts and fears and insecurities, all of it.
Yeah. They're just different levels, but it's the same feeling.
Yeah. The philosopher Notorious Big said, "More money, more problems," right? It's like, you still got problems. They're just bigger and they're actually
different. They got zeros, different amounts of zeros on
different zeros. That's right. That's right. So is there, in terms of the stuff that you teach and the methods that you teach, what do you use on a daily basis, right? So I know like every 4 months you're using the buyback loop, right? But what are some of the methods that you teach in the book that you use in your own life and or business on a day-to-day, week-to-week like basis?
Yeah, everything in the book I still do today. So the perfect week outline, I mean, that's core to the framework. The way I work with my executive assistant hasn't, like the framework that I teach in the book is still time and tested, true, amazing. Like I'm thinking about kind of what I shared, folder structure and the meeting rhythm. It's the same. Like I'm like, is there something we've added or tweaked? No. I mean, I can share nuances because, like, again, I had to introduce a new concept and relatively like 101 level stuff, but there's 301, right?
Yeah,
like for example, when I ask my assistant to schedule a meeting, we have priority 1, 2, 3, and 4. I don't talk about that in the book, but you might appreciate it, Hal, because you have an assistant.
Yeah.
1 means cancel a meeting, make this happen, right? 2 is within the next week, find a spot. 3 is within the next 6 weeks, no rush, whatever. And 4, put it on a list. And if something happens and you can't fill it, reach out to the person and say, we got 15 minutes. If you want Dan now, if not, it might be next quarter. So just even like thinking about how to communicate in a more kind of systematic way with your team, and stuff like that. But I use the preloaded year, which I teach in the book. I literally had it open with my friends yesterday at the lodge. Like we're trying to plan some trips. I literally 10x vision map I look at every day. I mean, it's really a blueprint to my life. And it's all these habits are now just part of who I am. And I think that's why, even the house manager, Betty, like I have friends staying at the house that were on the ski trip with me, and they're just fascinated by it. Like, my buddy Roddy just texted me. He's like, can I leave my snowboard here until next year? And I go, talk to Betty.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't run that.
I don't have a problem with it, but Betty knows where all the storage is. So if you're going to leave it here, she needs to know because you're going to coordinate with her next year when when you need it back, you're not going to text me because
Yeah.
I'm not the guy in charge of that stuff. And this is my own home. And it's okay to have somebody support you in that level. So I can be here with Hal, or I can be spending time with my kids. And that's just the way I do it.
Yeah. How many kids do you have?
2, 9 and
what
10.
ages?
Yeah, Irish twins, 9 and 10 years old. They're 11 months apart though, so it was kind of nuts.
Wait, how does that? Oh, got it. Okay, that's Irish. I never heard the phrase before, Irish twins, but I just
Irish
put 2 and 2 together and figured out what it meant. Right on, man. Well, hey, dude, I'm gonna keep pinging you with questions about the book as I'm reading it. As a friend, I'm gonna ask you for questions. I might bring you back on. But anything else to share with anybody that hasn't read the book, like your big takeaway, any last parting piece of advice?
Yeah, I mean, because I want people that are like, and it doesn't matter if you have a team of like 25 people or you're, like I'll tell you the story of my wife because she gave me permission to share it. How Renee lives with me, right? She sees this, she experiences it. And when the book finally showed up in my house, the publisher sent us like our first whatever, I lost it for a bit because Renee decided to start reading it. I never asked her to read it. I didn't expect her to read it. I don't know. Like, I don't expect anybody to read it if they don't feel called to read it.
Yeah.
But I watched her for 10 days every night, sit there and just process. And I was just sitting there quietly. I took photos. She would kill me if I posted them because it's like nighttime laying next to me, on the couch, But I took photos because a part of me was like, really excited that she was finally going to understand the thing that she saw, and we could have even talked about, but she's going to understand the method behind it. And so this was probably 2 months ago. She's tripled her business. She hired an assistant. She hired another person to help her with her fulfillment. She hired somebody to help her with her marketing. She literally followed the replacement ladder. And by the way, she's like now has more time to compete in her CrossFit stuff she's doing and, have friends over. And like, I would have wrote the book for her.
Oh yeah. Dude, that must be so gratifying, man.
It's super rewarding. So I share that because I know there's people listening that are, and just like my wife, okay, somebody that sees this firsthand had fears around, well, what if I hire them and then I can't keep them busy? That's a real fear, right? Like, what if I hire somebody on the team, but I don't even feel like I'm consistent enough? Like, there's so many levels to the beliefs.
Yeah.
Or, it's I don't trust myself, right? Why do people not invest in coaching and seminars? It's like, well, I don't trust me to do anything with
follow through. Yeah.
So that's real.
Yeah.
Which I actually think if you have an executive assistant, it's a forcing function to show up, and they'll keep you like the way I do it is my executive assistant owns my projects. And when we get on calls, she's like, where are you at with this?
I'm the same way.
Right? We'll always do more for other people than we'll do for ourselves. I mean, this has been proven with people with dogs versus humans and prescriptions and compliance and completion and stuff. So I just really hope if the message resonates, that you decide to do something. I honestly, you don't have to read the book. You can just decide, I'm going to, somebody messaged me this morning. They're like, yesterday we hired a babysitter for 4 hours to watch our kids so my husband and I could go get some work done. And it was a dramatic change in the quality of the work I did because I knew I was paying for those 4 hours. And I wanted to get my money's worth. And I was like, exactly that. Yeah. Do that. Keep going. Build your empire. Keep allowing yourself to play with this idea because it's a mathematical, like I call it a first principle, because if you are doing anything that you could have paid somebody your buyback rate or less, you're actually working against your potential. There's no other way to look at it once you understand it. Yeah. And that paradigm shift, hopefully people will take that with them for the rest of their lives. So that would be my parting message.
Awesome, man. Well, it's like I said, impactful for me. The timing's perfect, man. So thank you for finally writing the book that's been inside you for all these years.
It's an honor to be on here, Hal. I appreciate the kind words.
Where's the best place for people to get a hold of you and or get the book?
Yeah, so buybackyourtime.com is either where they want to go to before or after. You get on all websites. Highly recommend you go to the bookstore. I want to send a message to all the retailers. So if you are inclined to drive and go get it in person, which is actually the opposite of buying back your time, but sometimes we do things because we enjoy it. I love going to bookstores personally. I like the smell of the bookstore.
Yeah.
Go and get your copy at the retailer nearest you, but it's on all platforms. Audible, I read it myself with bonus chapters. But buybackyourtime.com actually has a free workbook. It'll help you work through some of the calculations and the processes and whatnot. And then I'm on all platforms at Dan Martell, 2 L's and Martell. And my favorite one's Instagram. Behind the scenes, I post a lot of my behind, like the stories of just how I do all this. And I try to share as many tips as I can.
Yeah, that's Dan Martell with 2 T's or two L's. Sorry, 2 L's.
Yeah,
Martell. Right on, brother. Well, it's an honor to connect, or grateful to connect with you again. And everybody listening, goal achievers, members of the Miracle Morning community, I love you. I appreciate you. The book is Buy Back Your Time. Check it out at buybackyourtime.com. And I think you will be grateful that you did. And last question, Dan, could you have your assistant drive to the bookstore and pick up the book? Would that be in
That
alignment?
is the way to do it. Yes, go get an assistant, or if you have one, ask them to go get you a copy.
Awesome. Awesome, brother. All right, man. Love you, dude. Talk to you soon.
Cheers.